All right, we're going to go over a point of view perspective here of top rope belaying. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my climber and make sure that their harness is in good condition, that it's installed correctly, all the extra straps are secured away, and most importantly, that the harness cannot be pulled down over the waist so that if the climber were to fall upside down, they would still be secured by the harness. Leg loops should be snug, doesn't have to be super tight. Again, straps not twisted and secured away. I'm going to make sure that they are tied in correctly. They're using a double figure 8 knot here, secured through both hard points. The loop should be about the same circumference as the belay loop here, which she has it perfectly tied here. That the knot is parallel, no twists, and that she's got plenty of excess tail. She even put in a stopper knot. You should have at least about 6 inches. We'd like to go a little bit more. The stopper knot isn't necessary, but if you have some extra, why not? Next, I'm going to follow the line, examine the condition of the rope, and make sure we're secured to the correct line for the route that she's about to climb. She'll be climbing this purple 5/9 here, so we're in the correct rope. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the same rope, and I'm going to also examine the rope to make sure we're not twisted in any way, which we are not. Next, on my end, I'm going to make sure to tie a stopper knot here, which I've already done, but I'll redo it here so you can see. I like to do a double barrel knot. I've got another video on how to tie this pretty easily. Okay, so I've got my stopper knot. I think even though this gym does not require it, I think it's a good practice because if you're outdoors, you're going to want to have this as a habit. Okay, that way if the rope ever runs out, it can't run through your belay device. Next, I'm going to make sure my harness is installed correctly, which it is. And let's talk about our belay device we're using today. We're using a Petzl Neox. This works just like a gree-gree, if you're familiar with that device. And I've got a locking carabiner as well. This is a DMM locking carabiner. I really like this one, and I'll show you why. Okay, so I can actually pull up here, and that keeps the belay loop separated from this main section of the carabiner. The benefit of this is that it prevents any cross-loading possibilities, which weakens the carabiner. Okay. Next, I'm going to make sure that I install the rope correctly. I have the climber strand installed where I've got the diagram of the climber and the brake strand right here, and then I will clip the carabiner right here. And I want to make sure that this is oriented such that the lever is on the top side and on the left side, controlled by my left hand here, okay? And the device is not upside down or oriented incorrectly. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to double check my climber again, okay? So I check her knot, you're good. She's gonna also check my device to make sure, and this is very important to always do a buddy check, okay? Because even if you've done this thousands of times, all it takes is one mistake for it to be catastrophic. Next, we need to understand climbing commands. Before we even begin climbing, my climber will say on belay, which means are we on belay? And I will re-examine the entirety of the system and confirm it. And when I've confirmed it, I will say belay on, okay? And when she is ready to climb, she'll say climbing. And when I'm ready to begin belaying, I'll say climb on. While she's on the wall, she has a few commands she can say. One of the commands is take. If she calls for a take, I'm going to take out all the slack I possibly can, and then I'm going to put my weight into the device by either moving backwards or sitting down into it. Okay? Once she's ready to climb again, she'll say climbing, and I will say climb on to indicate that she is safe to climb, and I'm ready to belay. If she is to take a fall, she might say falling, or it might be an unannounced fall. In either case, I will take out all the slack, if there is any in the system, and again, sit back into the rope. Notice I'm going to keep my right hand, my brake hand, to my right hip here. It's very important to keep a hand on this brake strand at all times. This is the most important thing. Also, you want to keep that brake hand below the device. I recommend keeping it down near the hip, or at least below the device, as often as you can. The reason is because if your hand is up here, the rope can move through the device very, very easily, okay? So please do not do the hands-offs here. Now, at the very top, when the climber reaches the top of the climb, they'll call for a take again, and they'll say, lower me. And then I'll just tell them lowering to let them know that I'm about to lower them. And I'll show you how to do that procedure. Now let's talk about how we manage this rope. Okay, so I'm gonna start off. My left hand is acting as a sensor hand, and my right hand is acting as my primary brake hand. As my sensor hand feels slack in the system, I'm going to pull the slack out. Notice I'm pulling up or out in this case. Then I'm gonna bring my brake hand down below the device. Then I'm gonna take my left hand and grab the rope firmly under my right hand. Then slide my hand back up to the device. And then my hand comes back up. This is also known as the P-bus system. It stands for pull, brake, under, slide. And we just repeat that over and over and over again. So at no time during the sequence will you see either my right hand or left hand leave this brake strand once I say climb on. All right, are you ready to get going?
Ready.
Okay.
On belay?
Belay is on.
Climbing?
Climb on. So now she begins climbing, and I'll show you. I'm sensing under, slide, pull, brake, under, slide, pull, brake, under, slide, pull, brake, under, slide. Now, a few notes. How much slack did we take out? I'm feeling the rope to see how much slack there is in the system. I don't want to keep the rope super tight because I don't want to pull the climber off the wall. I also don't want them to climb assisted, but I also don't want there to be excess slack. So you just want to, you'll get a feeling for it. You want the line to be just slightly taut, but not actually add any additional tension into the line. Now, other considerations. As she's climbing, you'll notice there's an overhang on this climb. So I'm going to step off to one side because if she were to fall, she would actually swing out and it could get tangled with my rope, okay? I'm also going to look at the very top of the route. Notice how the final holds are to the right of the anchor. I'm going to stand on the opposite side so that my rope is going to be out of her way and not pinning her to the wall. Okay, I'll keep this in this viewpoint for a bit here so you can see. And notice I don't always have to take a ton of slack out. It's fine to just take a little bit at a time. What's really nice with this DMM carabiner is this part here is a little wider. It prevents the belay device from moving onto the spine, which I really like. So she's into the crux here. The overhang section, which is the hardest position of this climb, so I'll be ready to take if she needs. And of course, I'm actually watching the climber, but I'm going to keep the camera pointed towards my hand so you can kind of, she called a take. I'm taking the slack out, I'm sitting into it. Got you. At this point, I'm still not going to let go of the brake strand. You can see how the camming device engages here. And I'm sitting down, kneeling down into it. And when she's ready to climb, I'll say climb on. And I will then stand up and continue with the P-bus method. Climb on. Okay, so I'm standing back up and I'm back into sensing the line, taking out the slack, Rinse and repeat. Now, I did ask her to take a fall at some point, so I'll show you what I do at that point. I'm just going to keep my right hand down below the device, and when she falls, I'm just going to pull out any additional slack and sit into the rope, keeping the fall as short as possible. She might have forgotten to fall. I'm gonna make sure the rope's away from her, so gotcha! So she just fell, and see what I did? So I just pulled the rope down here and squatted, and she barely moved. Climb on! And she might also take an additional fall that's unannounced. As long as you keep the line taut, you'll be good. She made it to the top. Gotcha. So she called for a take. And now, okay, now lowering. Now to lower, I'm going to show you how to do this. Number one, I'm going to make sure the rope is not in her way. So in this position here, it makes more sense to come closer to the wall here. Okay, so now I can lower her clearly. Now let me show you how to work this device. I'm going to keep my hand holding the brake line under the device at all times. Then I'm going to gently engage this camming lever, very gently, loosen my grip on my right hand just a bit, and I want to control the speed completely with my left hand on this lever here. If at any point this rope were to run out of control, I would release the lever, which would automatically engage the camming device, braking the climber. Now, as you lower, you want to go very slowly at first, and keep your eyes on your climber. You want to check the ground to make sure the climber is clear of any obstructions or other people. As you get more comfortable, you can lower faster, but in the beginning, you just want to go very slowly. This is the most dangerous part of top rope belay, so it's important to do this safely every single time. At the very bottom, I like to slow down the climber just before they hit the ground, like this, and then give them plenty of extra slack. Off belay. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful. Great climb.
Thank you, Belayer.